Hey there guys, I'm Will and welcome back to FP1 and welcome to the Podium podcast after the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix. Maybe not the most exciting races until about lap 40 or so, but still quite a lot to talk about. And today I'm absolutely delighted to invite a very special guest onto the channel. Tommy Bellingham, head of a founder of WTF1. Mate, honestly, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on the show, so thank you so much for coming on. How are you really to begin with?
I'm good. Thank you very much for having me. Always happy to chat about F1.
Yeah, and obviously Imola, it was I don't know, first time coming back since 2006. Oh, I want it to be a good race. Obviously Imola, they want to come back onto the calendar as well. What did you think of the actual race on the whole? I guess that's a good place to start because yeah, up until about that 40, I don't know, wasn't one for the history books.
Yeah, I love Imola. I guess maybe I'm slightly biased because I grew up with it as a track, and I kind of like seeing it back. I like that old school nature. We've had this debate many times on our podcast about sort of what track is perfect for F1, and I've always found that the modern cars are never really that great anywhere. You have these purpose-built circuits around Sochi and Yas Marina, and it still doesn't seem to produce that much overtaking. So, not going to lie, Imola is certainly not the best place for overtaking. But then I'd argue that sometimes it's nice to see a little bit of a struggle to pass not so easy, like we saw maybe in Portimao, where you're just you're breezing past in the DRS zone, and it's complete non-fight. Yeah, so at least like the battles last for a while, but yeah, it's a decent race. I'm glad it returned for a one-off. It was nice to see.
Yeah, definitely. I think I as well kind of grew up in that early kind of Schumacher era and seeing Imola. It is a classic circuit. One of those circuits that will always be remembered with Formula One. And yeah, it was good to see it back and qualifying as well. I think just a lap around Imola, it's just so fast paced and so on the limit, very much like Monza in a way, which is really good to see. But obviously the big other talking point of the race. Mercedes, 7 World Constructors Championships in a row. I'll be honest, there was a point in the season where I thought, you know what, Haas, they might be up there, they could challenge them. It could be quite tight, but no, I mean, I think for me this was their easiest one, and it almost feels like they're getting easier every single year, really. But it's an incredible achievement all the same. They've gone through now a regulation change, 2 regulation changes as well if you count 2019, and they're still the team to beat, and they've still absolutely knocked it out the park. It is just incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, it's frustrating for fans, especially when you're not a fan of Mercedes. Not incredible for the sport to have, dominant. I remember people complaining about Red Bull's domination, and you think with the stable rules, you're going to be looking at Mercedes next year as well, which means 8 titles, and that's double what Sebastian Vettel and Red Bull were doing, and that felt long. So I guess the thing you have to applaud, like you say, is that they've gone through regulation changes. It's not like they've just kept these hybrid rules forever. They've changed. There was quite a significant rule change in 2017. It did make it a lot closer. You could argue Ferrari were almost on par that year. Unfortunately, that's not the case this year. And like you say, they've just run away with it. But it is what it is, and yeah, you've got to applaud them for just not backing off. I think a lot of people, it's easy to take maybe the piss a little bit out of Mercedes that when they finish second and third, they're really downbeat and they're talking on, they say like, oh, what a difficult race for us this was, and they finished third and fourth, and you go, oh, every other team would be biting their hand off to get that result. And that just shows that the incredible power, their willingness to win. They just never want to stop winning, and they'll never back off, and that's a worry for everyone else.
Yeah, no, agreed. And yeah, obviously 2022 we could see a bit of a change at the front. For me, I think Mercedes, as you said, next year, stable regulations. They've already started work on next year's car for months and months and months back. So yeah, if you're a Mercedes fan, you'll be very, very happy. If you're a Red Bull fan, you're not going to be too happy. If you're a Ferrari fan, you probably still want to hide behind your sofa because that Ferrari car ain't getting any better either. But yeah, let's move on to some of the standout drivers, I think. And Danny Kvyat, he came out of his shell this weekend. I think he's one guy who, he's struggled this year. Definitely, he's not always found that AlphaTauri car as easy to drive as, say, Pierre Gasly. But he really shone, not just in the race, but in qualifying as well. I think it was his first race in, I want to say 30 Grand Prix weekends that he's got into Q3. And, obviously he wasn't quite on par with Gasly. Gasly still got that brilliant P4. But in the race, it was damage limitation for Kvyat, and for someone who looks like he's out of F1 at the end of next year as well. It was nice to see him up there, and I was kind of, as a Ricciardo fan, I was still kind of willing him on. I'm like, I won't be too ashamed if Danny gets that podium. But hats off to Kvyat today, I think.
Yeah, it was a brilliant drive. I must say, I was very impressed. I've not been impressed with him at all. It seems like you say, his career is just the fact that Gasly's just completely trounced him really in the AlphaTauri. It's got to be said. And there were some performances where you just wonder if it was an inevitability that he was going, but it's always nice to see that there's still fight in drivers like that. And what a performance. I mean, like we were mentioning earlier, the track is extremely hard to overtake. And yes, he had the tyre advantage, but he made the most of it. It really, he was just, I guess he had the joy of, it was a bin or win situation. I'm sure he'd have happily got a podium or binned it in the wall. And I guess that's the advantage for him, that he had that. So yeah, it was an awesome drive, really impressive.
Yeah, definitely. Agreed. And we saw that strategy. It worked for Kvyat. Didn't really work for Perez, and Perez is another driver I'm just gonna quickly throw in here because I felt for him. He's leaving Racing Point, or soon to become Aston Martin, into the year for Lords Benasti and Vettel to kind of take that place. And I don't know where Perez is going to go now, because there's obviously those rumours about Williams and whether he'll go to there, and now Williams have confirmed that George is definitely staying in that team. I feel like Perez is out now, with Alpha as well confirming their drivers over the weekend. Just a quick extra point here. What's your thought on that? Could we see Perez in maybe a different series next year?
Yeah, it really is looking like Red Bull or bust for him now. And there's something about Red Bull. I feel like Perez would maybe rock the boat a bit too much for Red Bull. They almost need to find a balance, which is always easy. You've got Albon, who's not performing, and I think Albon will, I'm sure we'll go into him later. He's not performing, and he's not maybe perfect for that Red Bull seat, even though he's a good driver. Perez, they want someone to challenge Max Verstappen, but they don't want someone that's going to be colliding with him. And you think back to Perez in his career, thinking even back to McLaren days with Jenson Button, they were banging wheels a lot, and Jenson wasn't very happy with him. Ocon as well, when they were at Racing Point and Force India together. They will. I wonder if Red Bull will think about that when thinking about hiring Perez, because it could be that he's maybe a little too fast, and they don't want him to. They don't want him to be banging wheels with Max. They want someone solid picking up the results, and it would be a massive shame if he went, because I'd love to see Perez still in F1. He very much deserves it, and I think it's a big shame that he hasn't got a win to his name, really, because if you think of some of the other people that have got a win in Formula One, I think he deserves a win under his name.
Yeah, no, 100%. Obviously, all his podiums have come in midfield cars as well, and it will be a shame. He's one of those drivers who, I think he's almost in a Nico Hulkenberg situation this year, where he's a good driver, he deserves to be on the grid, but there just aren't those seats available. And with the likes of Alonso coming back and Vettel staying on, then you are entering a period where you're looking for that young talent, really, which is just a shame, really, for Sergio. But he still had nearly nine odd seasons in the sport, so he's done pretty well for himself, I think. Now, obviously, you mentioned Albon there. Something we've got to talk about, I think. Where do we start with Alex Albon? And I feel like I say this every single video I do at this point. I'm like, it can't get worse. It can't get worse. There's no way it can get worse. And it looked like it was getting better. Well, sort of. He was closer in qualifying, and then obviously maxed out the race. Albon was still miles behind, but he was still in contention for points. And then the spin. And I kind of felt like that's just a perfect kind of image for his entire season, really, this year. Getting so close and getting so close to those opportunities, but then bottling it towards the end of the race. And I think he tried to claim that the McLaren hit him, which it was pretty obvious that he, didn't. And it was just a silly spin. And really, it just shows how much pressure he's under. Red Bull have now come out and said, we're building him back up. You know, I think Albon, he's hit rock bottom and is currently digging that. He's hit the rock bottom now. He's digging his grave, I think. But Red Bull, they want to bring him back up. They want to get him back up there. What was your thoughts on one of his weekends? Because it's really not looking good now, is it?
It's not at all. There was the talk, wasn't there, that he was given 2 races to essentially save his seat. I think Christian Horner was quoted as saying that after the Eiffel Grand Prix at Nürburgring, which was about as bad as it gets. You know, taking out an AlphaTauri, having no pace, really clumsy weekend. You thought it can't get any worse than this, and then he was 12th in Portimao, 15th here, and like you say, he was presented with an opportunity. Daniel Ricciardo, you know, he had the worst tyres on, but then Daniel Ricciardo had the worst tyres on and still managed to hold on for Podium. Albon's confidence is just shot, and back to what we were saying before, that Albon's a good driver, there's no doubt about it, but you need someone incredibly mentally strong in a Red Bull seat, and we know that Max Verstappen is that kind of character. We know that people like Fernando Alonso are those kind of characters, and I don't think Alex Albon is suited at a team that will not support him or give him any kind of confidence. It's a massive worry for him, and you do wonder if he'll even have AlphaTauri to fall back on if he doesn't get the Red Bull seat next year. It's really gone that bad for him.
So yeah, let's move on then from, I guess, a soon-to-be ex-Red Bull driver to a current ex-Red Bull driver in Daniel Ricciardo. As a big Danny Ric fan, I was pretty happy with that performance this weekend. Another podium, another case of, I think, Ricciardo really showing his stuff. P4 in the championship now as well, which I think is higher than he finished in his last 2 seasons with Red Bull, if he can stay there, and it's looking like he will, if that performance keeps going the way it is. So, you know, what was your take on his weekend, Tommy? Because really, he is in the form of his life right now.
Yeah, he's driving superbly. It's strange that he's moving, really, because he seems to have really, like, Renault found a lot of form now, and it seems like the team behind him, he's in that number 1 status at Renault at the moment, which obviously he had that problem with Max Verstappen where he didn't enjoy that luxury at Red Bull, and you sort of understood why he left to join Renault. But he's just on it at the moment, and Ocon cannot seem to get anything out of that Renault anywhere near what Ricciardo is doing. And it is surprising that he could well finish 4th in the championship at the end of the year, which I don't think anyone would have expected come the start of the year. It's an incredible achievement, like you say, even better than what he was doing at Red Bull. So yeah, he's just driving in the form of his life, like you say, at the moment. It's probably been the most impressive driver in the last couple of races. And you've got to fancy him for maybe another couple of podiums before he leaves for McLaren as well, the way it's going.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's looking incredibly exciting. Of course, that McLaren partnership, yeah, they get the Mercedes engine. McLaren, I think they described this weekend as damage limitation, didn't they? So I'm a little bit worried. I think they'll still bring it back, and really, I think Danny Ric is looking at those 2022 regs more than next year anyway. So maybe it's all right for McLaren to throw away year next year, spend time developing the 2022 car, and then obviously take that big leap up with the new regulations. But we'll finish off with a few more predictions for Turkey. great to see Turkey back, another track returning to the calendar. I think first time since 2011, I want to say, was the last time we held a race there. Really excited about it because Turkey was a brilliant track. You know, we've seen tracks like Kota try to copy elements of it. I think is it turn 8, the really long left-hander with like 3 apex. Brilliant. Cars going around that, especially the new generation ones, are going to look... Oh, I can't wait. I cannot wait. Yeah. But yeah, Tommy, if you could give us a quick top 3 prediction for the race and then like a bold prediction for the whole weekend for us.
Okay. Yeah, top 3 predictions will come as no surprise to say. I'm going to go for... Oh, do I go for Bottas? Yeah, I'm gonna go Bottas, Hamilton, Verstappen.
Nice. Okay.
And then a bold prediction. Oh, that's a tricky one. Maybe. Oh, I'm trying to think who would be good around there. I reckon. Do I dare say that George Russell might get a point? George Russell.
Fair, we're on the same. We're on the same wavelength. That one. Yeah. You've stolen my bold prediction from me. Yeah. No. I was. That's exactly. I was going to have to think of a new one now. Damn. But yeah. No. I agree. I'd love to see George get a point, especially after what happened last weekend with the Grosjean-esque crash. It wasn't great, and you've got to feel for him. You've really got to feel for him. But I've got to think of a new bold prediction now. All right, I'm going to say my top 3, so I've got a bit of time to think. But let's go. I'm going to go with Hamilton to win this one. I think every race so far that he's... every new race that's come in, so it's been a new track, he's won all of them. So Mugello, Nürburgring, and obviously last weekend in Imola as well. So let's go Hamilton, Bottas, and probably Verstappen, I'd say, on that one. And bold prediction. This is where things get tough. What do I want to go for? I'm gonna say Danny Kvyat. Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna go for that. I'm gonna say Danny Kvyat. He's had a strong few races. Well, no, he's had a strong race last weekend. Let's not talk about Portimao. But yeah, Kvyat is. I think he can keep that form going. Personally, I think he can take that positive momentum. Obviously, he pretty much knows his career is done now at this point anyway. So yeah, let's say that. Let's say Danny Kvyat to get some more points and maybe even get closer to a podium. I think maybe even get closer to that podium. So yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching. Then Tommy, thank you again for coming on. Really do appreciate you taking the time out of your day to come on the show this weekend. Any kind of lasting thoughts, lasting comments?
Not really. Thank you very much for having me on. Or like I say, always happy to talk about F1. Obviously, it's what I love, what I've been doing for years and years and years. So always happy to join some like-minded F1 fans and have a chat about it. And fingers crossed we get some good racing in the last few races.
Yeah, definitely. And of course, Tommy, for those that don't know, he's actually got a YouTube channel himself. Started one a few months back, so I'll leave a link to that down in the description below so you can go and check that out. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for listening. Make sure you do let me know down in the comments below what your predictions are for Turkey. And yeah, with all that said and done then, I hope you have a lovely rest of your weekend, and I will see you all in the next one.